young minds that are left, they're ours.
This is the High School Crossfire. Welcome back.
Good afternoon, fellow students and the table of jury. My name is Gerald Echlau. I'm from Jinja College. Resolved, this house believes that UN should intervene militarily in other people's wars, which is not correct. Allow me begin by asking the following questions to one of the representatives of the affirmative side. One, and this one begins it is in form of a statement. Let me begin by saying, none of the speakers stated the level and causes of war. And is it necessary, take for instance, is it necessary for UN to intervene militarily in a war that occurs between two conflicting parties which is just minor? Take for instance, if your mother and father have war, is it necessary for UN to intervene militarily?
Yes, because sometimes for peace, you need to give war a chance.
And what is the level to the way so that UN comes to intervene militarily?
I beg your pardon?
To which level of war does UN come to intervene militarily?
Whatever is deemed necessary by the Security Council.
Because it's not necessary for UN to come and intervene in just a mere conflict, a cold war between father and mother. That's unnecessary, please. Now, they say that the main objective of UN is to protect peace, is to maintain peace and security in the whole world, and also to protect the rights of civilians in those countries. But as these people intervene militarily, don't they kill innocent people as per they may assume they are rebels, or they may assume that they are the soldiers fighting?
No, they don't. For example, they managed to disarm 75,000 armed rebels in Sierra Leone between 1999 and 2005. So they were not killing people.
That is, I think he has not. Let me talk about Syria. It was able. We registered that according to Adjudication, it is said that 465 million people have died. Don't you mean that UN troops have killed some of them as they try to hunt for those rebels?
South Sudan was your parameter, but by the mere fact that you've swayed to Sierra Leone, it means that you're giving us a fallacy because you never did
but
research.
South Sudan is our parameter because we are talking of peace, but I'm centering to your military intervention in the whole world. Since you have really taken the whole world as your parameters, which is irrelevant. Now, the third question is, how many peacekeeping missions than military interventions has UN held in the past 4 decades, and how many peacemaking missions has it made as per now?
They are numerous. However, they have all failed. For example, Riek Machar and Salva Kiir have had 3 consecutive peace talks, and all of them have failed. This is according to the Sudan Tribune of 13th June 2000.
Specify in number.
I've said they are numerous.
So, right now, according to our research, according to peacewoman.com, it says that it has, in the past 4 decades, it has held 58, and currently it's holding 16 peacemaking missions, which means that it has not intervened militarily to such countries. So now, let me continue and say that what is the main objective of UN? What is the main objective of UN?
To promote peace, international peace to be precise.
As it promotes peace and it intervenes militarily in other people's countries, don't you mean that it causes justice and it causes the wars and also disagreements? Allow me to conclude by saying, force is not the best way of solving conflicts. Rather than, so we guys should say that let us do our work peacefully. With that, I rest my case. Thank you.
Panel of judges, the 2 antagonistic bodies, the August House, I salute you. Resolved, this House believes that UN should intervene militarily in other people's wars. As the affirmers, we greatly affirm this. And before I proceed, I would like to ask Who are you to question the intervention of the United Nations in other people's wars?
Pardon your question, please.
Who are you to question the intervention of the United Nations in other people's wars?
We are the people who want to maintain peace in the whole world. So the military intervention of UN in countries with wars can cause harm. So now, if we are to involve those countries into peace...
You can keep quiet. So it is quite clear that there is no law that governs these so-called peace mongers. I don't know. These people are just... Even rebels have the idea that they are creating peace. These could be rebels. This is how it starts. A small concept, and it builds, and becomes a war. And we have to intervene militarily to do away with such people. If not militarily, how would you suggest that the UN should intervene? Because peace talks have failed. I've given you the example. Our immediate neighbors, they have failed. The UPDF was summoned. That's when some peace came up. So, give us clear-cut measures with evidence of their effectiveness that we should use other than military intervention.
And to begin with the evidence, according to Aljazeera.com, Peace Women and UN.org, it says that UN has tried to maintain peace in South Sudan by inviting the two antagonistic bodies.
Thank you.
For peace talks.
And I quote, it has tried. That means there is no word that shows success. It has just tried. Hence, it's failing. By the time it's still regarded a trial, there is no work. So you should not come up here. So if you have no way forward, then let us move on with our military intervention. Because we have given you evidence of how it has worked. Sierra Leone, Rwanda, Burundi. What more do you want? Moving on. Are you informed about the international humanitarian law?
It is irrelevant, but you can say it out.
Listen, now that you don't know, then you're debating a fallacy. You don't know what you're talking about. You're here saying that the military intervention will lead to the deaths of civilians, but the international humanitarian law, which also governs the UN, rather within which the UN also works, is set to protect civilians and non-combatants. Non-combatants are people who are not involved in the war, people who are not fighting. So if we are protecting them in our military intervention, then there is no harm going on, so it is the right way to go. And in conclusion, the UN should intervene militarily in other people's wars because it has been seen to succeed on several occasions using military intervention. For example, in Sierra Leone, where the UN operated from 1999 to 2005, was hailed a success and officially closed its offices in Freetown in 2014, declaring a successful conclusion of its work. It had ably disarmed more than 75,000 ex-fighters, including child soldiers. It has also destroyed 42,000 weapons and 1.2 million rounds of ammunition, a potentially deadly arsenal that is now itself dead, said Mr. Ban Ki-moon, according to the www.uninfo.org. So, if at all you want to have peace, give war a chance through the military intervention of the UN. Thank you.
So, on that ground, I think for content, for the affirmatives, I gave them 30. For the negatives, 29. For style, affirmatives, I gave them 18. Negatives, 13. For strategy, affirmatives, 32. Negatives, 29. The total for affirmatives being 80, and the total for negatives being 71. Thank you very much.
Because this is a civil debate, we use for more English. We do not use slang like you guys, and that came from the fourth speaker from the negative. My colleague has already stated this. When you're cross-examining, you do not make statements. You do not even say, let me first open up with this statement. You state the question and you wait for the other side to respond, then you can actually conclude your question as per what you think it should have been. Now to go on to, let me go on to points. Team affirmative, for content I gave them 32. For their style I gave them 15. For their strategy I gave them 32, making a total of 79. Team negative, for your content I gave 28. For your style I gave you 10. For your strategy I gave you 30, making a total of 68.
30 for strategy because from the first speaker down to the cross-examiner, they truly knew what they were doing. Even when they kept on asking questions, they were sticking to their parameters and giving credible reasons as to why they belong to such a parameter. So I gave you 20 because your strategy, you gave an alternative, which was credible, yes, but at the end of the day, you failed to give a strong argument to keep it standing. And it was messed up by your fourth speaker, who actually was stumbling between Sierra Leone, South Sudan, and the whole world. So I gave you 20, making a total of 78 for the affirmatives and 60. So it is upon this that, as a table of judges, we have unanimously decided that the affirmatives, Namilango College, wins this debate. Thank you.